know me by now, my name is Day5. I'm the National Director of Canada's Experience, the proud entity which facilitates Canada's March of Living. You just had a meaningful Shabbat. And one of the things of Shabbat is trying to bring that spirit of Shabbat into the remainder of the week. We're going to have that opportunity to do that tonight. It's going to be a wonderful roller coaster of emotions and experiences this evening, but we need your cooperation to assist us as well. Many times what we do and what we see, what we read, is very much in front of us. But sometimes some of the most sublime, the most enduring things are things which are left behind the lines, things which you don't automatically see. And hopefully this evening is going to give you opportunity to see and feel things that you have not yet experienced. So without further ado, I want to call on Rabbi Day5 from Montreal. Who's going to introduce and explain to us the relevance of Havdalah and the musicians who are going to guide us through a very beautiful Havdalah service. Rabbi Day5.
Good evening. Let's hear it for Montreal! Toronto! Cross Canada! Okay. I was supposed to give an explanation for Havdalah, but tonight, oh, Sweden! I was supposed to give an explanation for Havdalah, but tonight we had a presentation from one of our survivors, Aviva Patak. I would love for everybody to give her a moment of your time as she tells us a little bit about her story and the connection to Havdalah. So please.
I need to preface my comments because I was just told that I'm speaking. Rabbi Pini asked me to say a few words after Havdalah, and then he told me I had to do it before Havdalah, where we pray for the end of the Shabbat and the beginning of the new week. So has my life been. I lost both my parents in the Kovno ghetto. They weren't scheduled to die, but the Nazis walked in to the wrong room and killed them. I was kept alive by righteous Gentiles who were friends of my late parents. And I was the lucky one, enough to find a most amazing new mother and father. Because of their love and devotion, and because of them and their love for each other, we became a family. I'm one of the lucky ones. The life I have had has been filled with total, unconditional love, and perhaps this is the only way I can divide one life and go forward with another. This has taught me never to give up, never to say I can't. And when we were in Auschwitz, I wrote on my paddle as follows. This was a note. Dear Nazis, just to let you know, I survived, and I have in turn created 6 more Jews for you to hate, and I did not sign it. Thank you.
My dear friends, what an incredible Shabbos we have. We're about to move away from our Shabbos with a Havdalah ceremony. And I'm sure you all had an incredible Shabbat experience. I just want to tell you that while we were walking this afternoon by the Warsaw Ghetto, I was hanging around bus 6, Railroad bus 6, and there was a local, let's call it a local peasant, who came walking by us and was seemingly unhappy that we were there and started screaming at us, Yuda, Yuda. Of course, our security detail took care of the situation immediately. But I just want to tell you that it made me feel so proud to be screamed at and called at a Jew in the streets of Poland. Which ends the Shabbat. We make a Kiddush before Shabbat, we're going to make a Havdalah to end the Shabbat. And we'd all like to wish you a Shabbat time. A great weekend. I know it's going to be a great week because tomorrow we're all leaving for the land of Israel.
If I can ask everyone to keep the chairs down because we're about to start a very important program. I'm handing it over to our MC. Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Corey Mandazis and I am from Montreal. My name is Benny Schneeweiss and I'm from Toronto.
My name is Aaron Clark and I'm from the Coast to Coast delegation. And we are honored and privileged to welcome you to this ceremony tonight, including those of you from Canada, as well as South Africa, Panama, Sweden, the USA, and Israel. This ceremony is of special importance, since it was exactly 30 years ago, just before the fall of communism, that the very first March of the Living took place right here in Poland. At that time, about 140 Canadians were part of approximately 1,500 students from the US, Israel, and other parts of the world who took part in the first March of the Living, a program that would see more than 250,000 people follow in their footsteps over the next 30 years.
Just a few days ago, all of us here this evening were privileged to embark on this same journey as we joined some 12,000 people from all across the world for the March of the Living, from Auschwitz to Birkenau, where we pledged our commitment to ending hatred and working towards Tikkun Olam. This evening, we have gathered to honor our amazing survivors and to honor the righteous among the nations who risked their lives to save others under the most difficult of circumstances.
Squashed like sardines for 2-3 days.
Of 7,000 Jews from my hometown, only 1%, 70, survived. The only reunion that I could have is right here.
My mother and my brother were deported to Auschwitz. Their ashes are still here.
Without being hateful against yourself.
I can see kids which I cannot believe from all over the world and smiling. We have a future.
Throughout our months of preparation and our time in Poland, we have been inspired by the courage, eloquence, and dedication of our Holocaust survivors. Please watch this special short video honoring 30 years of Canadian survivor participation in the March of the Living. Okay. In a moment, we're going to honor each of our survivors with a special presentation.
Before we do that, I would like to invite Ellie Rubenstein, National Director of March of the Living Canada, to pay tribute to a very special man.
Before we continue, I would just like to say a few words about Bill Glee, Zichrono Livracha, a beloved Holocaust survivor from Toronto, who had traveled on several marches of the living and who passed away only recently in February this year. I was at Bill and his wife America's home just a few days prior to his passing. He and his daughter Michelle presented me with a fascinating Holocaust education initiative for students that they had created together for a time when survivors would no longer be able to share their stories in person. They've wanted to find a way to enable others to tell survivor stories, a way to preserve the survivor's personal testimony in a way that had such a strong impact on the march for future generations. Then we, his wife America, Michelle, and myself discussed Bill's writing his memoir, finally doing it, something he had thought about but was reluctant to do. By the end of the conversation, I think we had convinced him to do so. We were going to take this full story and then transcribe it. Sadly, that will not happen, reminding me of the words from Bialik poem. There was a man and he exists no more. His life song was broken off halfway. He had one more poem, and that poem is lost forever. But Bill's legacy will live on in the work his family is doing to perpetuate his memory and the extraordinary impression this gentle, charming, and oh so wise man left in the hearts of the thousands of students he touched over the years. Please watch this short clip on Bill Glee, created just this past week by Matthew Schleifer, himself an alumnus of the March of the Living.
For a long time, I feel that I have a responsibility as a survivor to make sure that the episode, this terrible event, the Holocaust, should not be forgotten. I am one of the survivors of Operation Hungary, and I must say that I feel that as long as I live, that experience will never disappear from my mind, my thoughts, and unfortunately my nightmares. Essentially good, but they're so easily persuaded to do bad, and unless the few people who are there who say this is bad and stand up for it and do something about it, then the same thing that has happened, people say, well, this will never happen, but it will never happen only if people are there who are going to fight this. I'm a Jew because you and all Jews are my people. And through all the trials and tribulations, we have kept our dignity, our humanity, our hope for a better future. I'm a Jew because I want to continue the heritage that my parents and 6 million Jews gave their life for. And when I stand here before you, you are my family. I have to talk about this because if I don't talk, the few of us who remained, who survived this terrible Holocaust, and what's going to happen? And eventually you have to look at yourself in the face and say, well, all right, you have gone through this particular experience, and what are you going to leave for the next generation to talk about the Holocaust, to tell people of the terrible things that one human being can do to another one in order that they should be prepared that when such incidents occur in their infancy, in their beginning, that they should be able to stop that.
would now like to invite to the stage members of Bill's family, his wife Marica, Tammy, and Michelle, his children, to read a very special poem that Bill composed and first read on the March of the Living. Please come to the stage.
Our father was always very proud to be a part of Am Yisrael, the Jewish nation. He hoped that the experience of March of the Living would leave participants feeling that they were Jewish, not only because they were born Jewish, but because they were proud to be part of the Jewish nation.
On many of his trips, he was the last survivor to speak before the groups left for Israel. In 2016, in Majdanek, with his youngest grandchild, and then again in 2017, in what turned out to be his last march. These were his words, his message to those participants and to all of you. This is for Papa.
I am a Jew because I believe that all human beings are created b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God, and therefore racism and discrimination is foreign to me.
I am a Jew because as a Jew I have the God-given right to question everything, and therefore I am responsible for every one of my actions.
I am a Jew because for 3,000 years we Jews dared to be different.
I am a Jew because I believe that it is our lifelong task to seek knowledge, to search, to inquire, to educate.
I am a Jew because every morning I recite in my daily prayers that it is not a choice, but a duty, an obligation to gmilat chasadim, to give charity, hachanasat orchim, to be hospitable to the stranger, bikur cholim, to visit the sick, havayat hamet, to comfort the mourner, and most of all, ahavat shalom ben adam l'chavero, to create peace.
I am a Jew because you and I and all Jews are my people, and through all the trials and tribulations we have kept our dignity, our humanity, our hope for a better future.
I am a Jew because I want to continue the heritage that my parents and 6 million Jews gave their lives for. And when I stand here before this mausoleum, these ashes are my family, the family that made you and me into a people, into the nation that we are.
Stand up and join me in a short prayer. The prayer which is our declaration of faith as Jews. The first prayer a Jewish child learns, and the last a Jew says nearing his death. The prayer that 85,000 men, women, and children must have said here before their tragic death, here in Majdanek. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Everyone who traveled on the March of the Living with Bill absolutely adored him, and he adored us. But there's one person he especially adored, and that's Sherry Ronstein, the Associate National Director of the March of the Living. I'd like her to come up to present and read a special certificate to the Gleed family.
I had the distinct privilege and honor to travel with Bill on many March of the Living journeys. And I'm heartbroken today that I can't give him this certificate in person, but honored to present it to his family. Bill Gleed, Zichrono Livracha, Holocaust survivor, educator, and philanthropist. Through his work with the March of the Living, the Sarah Chaim Neuberger Holocaust Education Center, and other educational institutes, Bill taught thousands of students the history of the Shoah, and with his wisdom, charm, and loving nature about the potential for all human beings to overcome the most exceptional adversity. Bill's memory will always serve as a blessing to his family and to all of those who have the good fortune to meet this inspirational man.
Representatives of each Canadian delegation to recognize all of their survivors by name. They will call upon each survivor by name and present them with a certificate honoring them for participating in the 2018 March of the Living and for sharing their stories with their fellow participants. We kindly ask each survivor to stand when their name is acknowledged. We call to the stage a member of the young adult delegation, Ryan Cohen.
Close to close chairs, Dr. Karen Paliu and Paula Lexier.
Chairs of the Montreal delegation, Danny Chasnoff and Leanne Ellison.
Chair of the Toronto delegation, Marcia Bramsky. And chairs of national adults, Stephen Altbaum and Mark Finkelstein.
My name's Ryan Cohen. I'm from the Young Adult Contingency in Toronto. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to recognize our strong, resilient, inspiring survivor, Hetty Bone. I just want to mention that today is the day, 73 years ago, that Hetty was freed and exited her camp.
I am Karen Paliu and this is Paula Lexier, and we are the co-chairs of Coast to Coast March of the Living. We have had the tremendous privilege of traveling alongside two amazing individuals. Your strength, resiliency, optimism, and compassion have been inspiring to us all. We will always remember and share the important lessons we have learned from your wisdom. We would like to invite David Schaefer and Angela Oroz.
My name is Leanne Ellison, and I'm here as a representative of Montreal co-chair. We like to refer to our survivors as our heroes. Unfortunately, some of them are not at our ceremony with us tonight, but we would like to recognize Marcel and Marilla Zielinski, Georgie Nemes, and and have his granddaughter with him at the same time, which is making it even more special.
Good evening. I'm Danny Chasenoff, and I'm the co-chair of the Montreal March of the Living 2018. Before I introduce the 4 survivors that are with us, in addition to those that Leanne introduced, I would like to say that we all would like to extend the fact that we miss Tommy Strasser. Tommy was supposed to come on the march with us this year, and up until about 3 weeks ago, he was going to be coming, and unfortunately, due to some health complications, he couldn't make the trip. It would have been Tommy's 4th trip with us, and our hearts go out to Tommy. Bill Lukowitz is here, and one of the chaperones, his daughter, Shelley, is here. So Bill Lukowitz. Coming back to Poland for the first time in 70 plus years, we have Johnny Javelin with us. And 2 of our survivors are here tonight, one of whom you heard from earlier, Aviva Patak, who's traveling with her grandson Josh. Aviva Patak. And someone you'll be hearing from very soon, we also have Eva Cooper with us. Eva.
Good evening. My name is Marcia Bramsky, and I'm honored to be the chair for Toronto. We have had an amazing journey with some fabulous survivors who have really inspired us. The word thank you is not enough, and I'd love to recognize them in this way. Anita Eckstein. Nate Litzinger.
My name is Steve Altbaum.
My name is Mark Finkelstein.
And we are the co-chairs, the national co-chairs for the Adult Mission. All of us here are very lucky to have the survivors with us. In Canada, we are immensely lucky to have a wonderful group of survivors that join us every year. And the adult contingent is honored and privileged to have 3 survivors with us this year. Bert Sigelfeld, Georgine Max Eisen, Anita Eckstein, and Nate Leipziger to come up to the stage.
We would also like to recognize the presence of Holocaust survivors from all the other delegations present here. Please rise so we can applaud you as well. We would now like to call upon Heshi Alpha, Canada's National March of the Living Chair, and Shala Walton, Director of the Canadian Young Adult March, to make a special thank you to some very important people.
As we all know, 2018 is a milestone year for the March of the Living. We're celebrating 30 years commemorating this amazing experience. We're celebrating 70 years of Israeli independence. And for the three young people standing behind me, we are celebrating 18 March of the Living trips each. As we all know, 18 in the Jewish religion symbolizes Chai, or life. March of the Living, March of the Living, or me, actually, on the March of the Living, I am celebrating a special milestone as well. It is 20 years since I first came here as a high school student with Max, Nate, and Anita. And this is the picture from the march that year that still sits on my desk. And for me, if you asked me 20 years ago if I thought I'd be standing here in this room today with, I think, 1,000 plus people standing here again with Max, Nate, and Anita, I could have never guessed it. I could never have guessed I would return another 11 times to lead that trip that gave me so much inspiration and so much hope. I would never imagine that Max, Nate, and Anita would be responsible for taking my 3 other siblings, almost 18 cousins, the youngest of whom is actually traveling with the Toronto delegation as well. Hi, Jakey. My husband, my mom, a few aunts and uncles as well. You know, for Sherry and I, who was just up here, we were also traveling together. This is a remarkable thing, and I just want to say, I can't possibly come up with the words. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to speak or to say, because I don't think I could ever do justice to the impact the 3 of you have had, but I am going to try. Anita, you spoke about the last words that your parents said to you. Remember who you are. And as a result, as a mother of 2, I too speak those words to my children, to be proud of who they are, to learn about the rich heritage that they belong to. Max, you told us you were there to tell the story for those who could not tell the story anymore. And as a result, that thought has inspired me to come back to tell my family's story, to share their stories and the stories of the survivors that I've had the privilege to come and be with, to say Kaddish for my family, because no one else is able to do that, and it has been such a source of pride and inspiration for me and the rest of my family. Nate, you told me 20 years ago that hate will always destroy the person doing the hating. And as a result, I try to meet everyone with an open mind, to look at them with as little judgment as I can, and to be as kind as I can. You came as Holocaust survivors on our trip, but you taught us so much more about life. You taught us to remember, and to remember the stories. I'm a better sister, I'm a better daughter, better granddaughter, now a better mom because of that. I'm a kinder, more empathetic person because of you. I'm more resilient, and every time I face trials and tribulations in my life, you are the voices in my head, telling me to be strong, to have courage, just like you. You've given me so much, and so much to so many people. And at the end of the day, I'm just left with 2 words. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna, Max, Nate, and Anita. The 3 of you, triple high. You spent 54 years educating on the March of the Living. Our Talmud teaches us that a person who saves one life saves an entire world. You have dedicated your lives to educating thousands of youth, young adults, and adults about the importance of remembering our past, of working for a better world, and of cherishing the beauty in our Jewish tradition. Your lessons and stories have inspired us to be educators, to stand up in the face of injustice, and to be proud of who we are. In changing so many lives, the 3 of you have changed the world. On behalf of the entire March of the Living Canada family, it is my honor to express gratitude for your courage and commitment in returning year after year to share your stories and lessons with the next generation.
It's been actually an honor to go with all you young people. And when they asked me, why am I doing this? I told them because I love them all. I never thought I'd make it to 18, but then I decided I've got to make it high. Who knows? Every year it's been a little bit more difficult, a little bit harder, getting older, but as long as I can, if my children let me, maybe I'll come again. Thank you. I have to tell you, I have a very special person here with me, another granddaughter, and I'm proud to have her as a granddaughter. She's the granddaughter and great-granddaughter of the people who saved my life. If it wasn't for that family, I wouldn't be here. Because with them, I have 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and 2 great-granddaughters. Martha has come to meet me in the last, 6, 7 years when I've come on the March of the Living. She makes a trip here to Warsaw. She makes trips to Warsaw just to meet with me. And she just became a doctor. How about that?
Good evening. So my name is Marta, and I just want to say that that's a privilege for me that I can call myself another granddaughter of this inspiring lady. And every time I come here, I'm getting a bit emotional because I'm just glad that I can see the next generation of young people are able to come here and to take this very important history lesson from our survivors. So that's it. I'm so happy to be here.
We are privileged to have in our presence yet another survivor actually hidden and saved by Polish righteous among the nations here this evening. Please welcome to the stage Eva Cooper from Montreal, who will briefly share part of her story with us.
First, I want to thank Ellie for getting the stool on which I'm standing. I wish Anita had stood on it too, then maybe we could have seen her better. I imagined what it would be like if I stood here in front of you without the stool, and you'd hear this voice coming out from behind the podium. And you'd say, where is she? Why doesn't she stand up? I have very few minutes. Now I have 1, 2 seconds left. Imagine that it is 1942 in the Warsaw Ghetto, where life has become unbearable. Many of you visited today. It did not look like that then. My mother, Fela, and I, then 2 years old, are among the hundreds of helpless, starving, terrified people being rounded up and herded to Umschlagplatz, where many of us stood today, where the train tracks border the ghetto. My mother's cousin, Regina Danker, who works as a slave in the prison of the ghetto, having been alerted by my father that we had been rounded up, arrives at the loading platform just in time to see my mother holding me in her arms, being forced into one of the packed cattle cars. used to transport the ghetto population to the infamous extermination camp, Treblinka, where the Montreal delegation will be visiting tomorrow. In a formidable act of courage and not considering personal danger, Regina rushes to the cattle car, where we're disappearing, screaming that I am her child and that my mother is only minding me. Unbelievably, miraculously, my mother is permitted to pass me hand to hand until I am literally thrown off that train into Regina's arms. The doors of the cattle car slam shut, and eventually the train pulls away. My mother and countless others on that and hundreds of other such trains are never heard from again. At Treblinka, they are murdered within 1 hour of arrival. My mother's and Regina's astounding courage haunts me to this day. What must it have cost my mother to hand her beloved child off in the face of such imminent danger, when every instinct in her body, as it would in your mother's body, every cell in her body must have been screaming to hold me tight, to protect me. So as you heard many times as we make this difficult journey through our tragic history, my survival is a miracle, as is the survival of any individual who survived the Holocaust. We immigrated to Canada in 1948 when I was 8 years old, because even after the war, even after all the tragedy, anti-Semitism prevailed, and indeed, I did not learn that I was Jewish until we were on board the ship heading for our new life. I grew up, went to school, university, married, had 3 children, and taught students from the age of 3 to university. Both as an adolescent and as a young woman, I was not much interested in the stories of the Holocaust and in our history. Since my father was not with me after he and I escaped from the ghetto, he knew little of my story except that I had been hidden by nuns in the south of Poland. I knew the outlines of our stories, but my father and stepmother spoke little of their experiences with me. I asked very little. I wanted to be like all my friends, a Canadian kid. I regret that I was not more interested at the time. In my own family, my children knew my story, but again, it was not in the forefront of our lives. It was not until 2005 when my younger daughter, Felisa, who was named for my mother, and who had a compelling interest in the effect of the Holocaust on all our lives, convinced me to return to Poland. It was during that trip, and through another series of miraculous events and coincidences, that I found my rescuer, with the help of an American genealogist whose name is E.L. Reisner, living in Warsaw. He incredibly remembered a reference in a book among his vast collection, which documented Jewish children saved in cloisters. This amazing discovery led me to the Franciscan order in the service of the cross, nuns whose life work was to care for blind children, and to the Institute for the Blind, which this order operates today, as they did before the war, just south of Warsaw. I learned, once I succeeded in reaching the convent, that the nun whose name Yale had given me, Sister Clara Yaroshinska, now aged 94, was alive, who, despite the fact that she herself was blind for the past 5 years, was alert and had a phenomenal memory. Felisa, my daughter, and I made arrangements to visit. We were warmly greeted and taken to the residence of the older nuns, and Sister Clara emerged, supported on each side by a younger nun. When she was told that we had arrived, she opened her arms wide to me, and I flew into them eagerly. You must remember that I was very young when I had seen her last. I did not remember her, not her face, not her voice, nothing. Yet when she was holding me and I was holding her in a warm embrace, both of us crying, I felt as if I had come home. I felt her love. I don't know how to explain that feeling. I call it emotional memory. Somewhere stored in my being was the memory of this amazing woman and the precious two gifts that she had given me. The gift of life, yes, but also equally important, the gift of love. A child of 3 who is not loved for 3 years cannot grow up to be the person I am today. A person who loves her family, her friends, her community, and who is sustained by giving back. I had my mother for 2 years, then my father for a short time, and then I had Sister Clara. She gave me her love and taught me to love in return. We compared our memories of that time. She told me of her terror that I would be discovered, and she was convinced that I was safe only when she held me in her arms. She recalled that when she met me, I ran to her, wrapped my small arms around her legs, and looking up at her pleaded, "Please pick me up." She had no choice, she said, but to pick me up. A tiny, dark-eyed child with an engaging personality who cuddled into her collar as she held me. She fell in love with me, so much so that she felt compelled to risk her life, the lives of all the other children in her care, the nuns, everyone, for the sake of what she had been taught, to do the right, the moral thing to do. She, her sister, and her parents saved other Jewish people during those terrible years, and she is remembered among the righteous at Yad Vashem, where we will be visiting in a few days. Sister Clara died in 2010 at the age of 99, but we had a wonderful relationship during the last 5 years of her life. We spoke every few weeks, and I saw her 4 more times before her death. Meeting her changed me and changed my life. I am forever grateful to her and to the many others, like Martha's grandparents, who somehow found the courage and the moral fortitude to choose to do the impossible, to risk all they held dear, their very lives and the lives of their loved ones, for the sake of helping one child survive. Such people, and they can be found in every nation, on every continent then and today, are the true heroes, the ones who in the worst of times restore our faith in man's goodness. They are the ones who offer a glimpse of what our world could be like if we valued characteristics which bind us as humans and which we have in common more than the things which tear us apart. Thank you for being part of this important journey. And allowing me to tell you my story, paying tribute to the outstanding, heroic individuals responsible for my survival.
Thank you, Eva, for sharing with us your touching story. Now please watch the short video from the Pauline Museum on another of the righteous among the nations.
chodzili do szkoły, bo ja do 2. klasy chodziłam, to właśnie mieszane dzieci były z rodzin ukraińskich, żydowskich i polskich. Nie było tam specjalnie, żeby jakaś dyskryminacja, że to Żyd, to Ukrainiec. Czasami się takiego, jak już był starszy chłopiec, to nosił te pejsy, to tam pociągnęli go chłopcy za pejsy. Ale to na takich zasadach, jak dziewczyny za warkoczy ciągną w szkole. To nie było, że to jest Żyd, a to Polak. Rowy dla siebie i to było makabryczne, bo z opowiadań kolegów takich w moim wieku, którzy podglądali, co robili Niemcy z Żydami, to podobno te rowy chodziły, jak zakopali już, że rzekomo zlikwidowali tych wywiezionych Żydów. To była tragedia straszna. To ludzie po prostu, jak jeden drugiemu opowiadał, to kobiety płakały. Z tego getta wieczorem, to pamiętam, jak oni przyszli, kompletnie nic nie mieli, nic, dosłownie. Myśmy wiedzieli wszyscy, że to grozi nam śmierć. Przecież to było ciągle ogłoszenie, kto przechowuje, kto pomaga Żydom, to śmierć na miejscu i słyszało się, a tu rozstrzelali, a tam rozstrzelali. Przecież to dużo ludzi zginęło razem z tymi Żydami. Trzeba było i wody troszkę zanieść do jakiegoś umycia się i nieczystości wynieść. Także, że ciągle z tym wiadrem ja kursowałam, nie? I to wzbudzało zainteresowanie tych sąsiadów, co tam mieszkali naprzeciw. I stąd ten strach. Jak taka sąsiadka o to zapytała, to my 3 dni nie mieliśmy spokoju, tylko wychodziło się, brało się te małe siostry i szła się spać do ciotki, bo może w nocy Niemcy przyjdą i rozstrzelają, to przynajmniej dzieci niech zostaną przy życiu. No tak się żyło w stresie przez 8 miesięcy. I dzieliło się ostatnie żywności. Matka gotowała już zupy z pokrzyw, później taki kwas w ogrodach rósł, lebioda. To wszystko się gotowało, troszeczkę ziemniaków, jak mówiłam, trzeba było zdobyć i dzieliło się tym wszystkim. Więc zszedł na dół, oparł się tak o drzwi tej komórki, to pamiętam, jak taki oparty i tak podarty, tu cały miał tą marynarkę na łokciach, łokcie brudne, wytarte, całe kolana, spodni też i kolana na wierzchu i tak się oparł i trzymał się, tak stał i nie wiedział, czy umie chodzić, czy nie umie chodzić. I pamiętam, że w tym czasie mój ojciec wszedł do mieszkania i wyniósł na wieszaku zawieszoną była koszula, marynarka i spodnie. I tak popatrzył na niego i mówi do niego: Eliasz mówi, ty doktor, A ja, szofer, weź ten garnitur. I oddał mu ten ostatni garnitur na ten. I on tak właśnie został trzymać ten garnitur. Szkoda, że nie było wtedy aparatu, żeby zrobić. Ale ja ten obrazek nigdy mnie po prostu nie ujdzie. Pamiętam go. No wziął i płakali. I ojciec płakał, i on płakał.
It is with great pride that I ask you all to rise to your feet now and welcome to the stage Mrs. Irina Senderska-Johnson.
Witam serdecznie wszystkich, szczególnie młodzież uśmiechniętą, zdrową, piękną.
Hi to all, especially the young, healthy, beautiful and smiling people here.
Jestem zaszczycona, że w tak licznym gronie jesteśmy tutaj i że mogę patrzeć na tą młodzież taką naprawdę wyrośniętą, wesołą i zdrową.
It is my honor to be here with such great company, again, especially with this wonderful young people.
Na tą młodzież liczymy, że nigdy więcej nie dojdzie do takiego momentu, jak była niemiecka okupacja w Polsce.
It is especially up to you young people to make sure that we'll never again experience the terrible times which were the German occupation of Poland.
Tyle istnień ludzkich zginęło w niemieckich obozach wybudowanych na polskich ziemiach przez Niemców.
So many lives were taken in German concentration camps built on Polish soil.
I myślę, że właśnie rola w tym będzie młodych ludzi. Dziękuję, bardzo dziękuję, że możemy przyjmować Was w Polsce, że interesujecie się losem, jaki mieli Polacy i Żydzi w Polsce.
I'm grateful that we can have so many of you as guests here in our country, Poland, to come, show interest and learn about what happened on this soil to Poles and Jews.
W moim mieście, Bolesławiu, mieszkało ponad 30% Żydów. I właśnie w tym mieście zostało uratowanych najwięcej w Polsce żydowskich obywateli. Co ja chciałam?
In my town, Borisław, a 30% Jewish minority lived before the war, and I'm proud to say that in my town, per capita, most Jews were saved during those terrible days. Let's give a big round of applause, folks. Let's thank you for Irina.
Malkovitz, and I'm the chair of Canada-Israel Experience and the chair of the March of the Living Digital Archive Project. I want you all to appreciate what you've just seen here tonight, something that very few people in the world get to experience. You are in the presence of a righteous among the nations, Irena, one of the most heroic individuals you will ever come across in your life. Someone who risked her own life as a young child to help others who were in desperate need simply because they were Jewish. Let the actions of the righteous among the nations inspire you in your own lives to acts of nobility, altruism, courage, and self-sacrifice. Every time you face a dilemma, a choice between doing the right thing and taking the easy way out, remember what you have seen and heard here tonight. To not be a bystander, to not sit idly by while others are bullied or persecuted or even worse. And if you do that, I promise you, you'll always make the right choice. So on behalf of the March of the Living Canada, I want to once again thank you, Irena, for your bravery, your kindness, and your goodness.
Moi rodzice i ja uratowaliśmy rodzinę 3-osobową. Lekarz, jego żona i dziecko. Dziecko Miriam Bander żył w Kalifornii, był profesorem na uniwersytecie, jeździł po całym świecie ze swoimi wykładami. No trudno, zmarł bardzo młodo, mając 75 lat, ale dumni jesteśmy z niego.
I and my family saved 3 people. One of them turned into Doctor of Physics and toured the world and lectured in physics. So we are all very proud of him. California.
So it is my great honor to share this certificate to Irena Sardusky-Jonsa in recognition, Irena, of your incredible and amazing bravery. I'm now honored to introduce to you Mr. Jeremy Wallace, the Charge d'Affaires of the Canadian Embassy in Poland, to say a few words.
Well, hello everyone. I don't think I've been in a room with as many Canadians as we have here tonight outside of Canada. Dear friends, dear students, distinguished guests, distingués invités, chers amis, to the survivors and to the righteous, it is an honor and a privilege to be among you this evening. Je suis fier de représenter le Canada en tant que diplomate et chef de mission par intérim de l'ambassade du Canada en Pologne. On a normal day, I am filled with pride that I should have the opportunity to represent my country abroad, and in particular here in Poland. But this is no normal day, and so it is a different and even greater pride I feel as I offer humbly these words on behalf of the Government of Canada. I am moved to be among you and to join you in remembering the atrocities that were perpetrated during the Holocaust. It is important to remember, as it is through remembrance and through teaching that we learn the lessons of the Holocaust, that we can ensure that future generations continue to work towards a world of greater peace, tolerance, mutual understanding, and respect. We learn, all of us, from humanity's collective past, and with this knowledge, we must work to ensure that certain crimes are never repeated.
Il y a quelques jours, le 11 avril, le Premier ministre du Canada, Justin Trudeau, s'est exprimé en ces termes. On April 11th, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said the following: Yom HaShoah reminds us of our eternal responsibility to preserve the memories of those we lost, share the stories of survivors, and keep alive the bitter lessons of the Holocaust. These moments of reflection and remembrance are vital. We cannot let the horrors of the Holocaust fade and forget the dangers of anti-Semitism, indifference, and silence. Every generation must know what happened and restate the values we hold dear, to bring meaning to the solemn vow, never again. These are not just words, but a call to action, a call to speak out against racism, hate, and bigotry in all its forms, and to stand on guard against a resurgence of anti-Semitism, xenophobia, and prejudice. I don't think I can improve on that. Dear friends, we are here this evening together to remember and pay tribute to the millions who were lost, and we honor the survivors, the righteous, and the triumph over persecution and oppression. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Before we move on to the next part of our program, let us all give a round of applause for our amazing volunteers, our chairs and chaperones from each community who have worked so hard in preparation and accompanying us on this exceptional program. Would all the chaperones and volunteers and chairs please rise?
All the chaperones, please rise.
For the survivors of the Holocaust and the righteous among the nations, no ideal is greater than the pursuit of peace. Please join us in the singing of One Day, followed by Day 5.
Sometimes in my tears I drown.
participants stay in this room. Only Canada adults in this time, please leave. Please clear the aisles so we can get out in orderly fashion. Everyone has an early wake-up in the morning. Please clear the aisles, and our Canada adults will be leaving first.
That's